There is a particular kind of silence that you know very well. It is not the silence of an empty room, but the silence of a person sitting in the middle of a crowd, watching, listening, and deciding not to speak. If you are listening to this, you likely belong to the generation born between the mid-60s and the early 80s. You are Generation X, and you have likely spent the majority of your adult life feeling like a ghost in the machine of society. You sit in meetings at work where the older generation, the boomers, are arguing about protocol, hierarchy, and FaceTime. They want to be seen. They want their legacy acknowledged. Then you look across the table at the younger generations, the millennials and Gen Z. They are arguing about values, feelings, and identity. They want to be heard. They want their emotions validated. And there you are, right in the middle. You are the designated driver in a car full of people fighting over the stereo. You are the translator between two different languages that don't seem to understand each other. You don't ask for attention. In fact, your natural instinct is to avoid it. You do the work. You fix the spreadsheet. You soothe the angry client. You manage the aging parent and the anxious teenager. You hold the entire structure together, and yet there is a gnawing feeling in the pit of your stomach that says, does anyone actually know I am here? Does anyone realize that if I walk away, this whole thing collapses? For decades, the media and the culture have called you the slacker generation. They called you cynical. They called you disengaged. They looked at your silence, and they mistook it for emptiness. But they were wrong, and deep down, you know they were wrong. What you are carrying is not emptiness. It is a very specific, very rare form of psychological density. You are not disengaged. You are conserving energy. You are not cynical. You are reality testing. To understand why you function this way, and to understand why this is actually your superpower in the modern world, we have to go beneath the surface. We have to leave the pop culture jokes behind and look at the deep psychology of how your mind was formed. We need to look at the soil you grew in. We need to talk about the psychology of the latchkey. If we look at human development through the lens of psychology, we know that the environment of childhood creates the map for adulthood, and your map is unlike anyone else's. You were the first generation to grow up with a specific kind of systemic abandonment. This isn't to say your parents didn't love you. Many did. But the structure of society had shifted. Divorce rates spiked. Two-income households became the norm. The streets were considered safe enough for you to disappear into until the streetlights came on. You experienced what we might call unsupervised existence. Think back to a Tuesday afternoon in 1984 or 1978. You walked home from school. You had a key on a shoelace around your neck or hidden under a mat. You unlocked the door to a silent house. There was no text message from your mother checking in. There was no Life 360 app tracking your location. There was no digital audience waiting to like your status. There was just you. In that silence, a profound psychological event occurred. You were forced to individuate, to become a separate person, far earlier than most children. When a millennial or Gen Z child scrapes their knee, or feels sad, or gets bored, their instinct is often to look outward. They look for the parent, the teacher, or the screen to reflect their reality back to them. They learn, I feel, therefore I share. But when you were 10 years old and you were bored or scared or hungry, you looked around the empty living room and realized that no one was coming. You had to make the toast yourself. You had to entertain yourself. You had to bandage your own knee. Psychologically, this built a massive internal container. In Jungian terms, you developed a very strong, self-contained ego. Not ego as in arrogance, but ego as in a vessel. You learned to hold your own contents. You learned that your emotions were your responsibility. You learned a hard truth. If I don't fix it, it stays broken. This created a mindset of radical self-reliance. But it also created a shadow. And it is important that we name this shadow, because it is likely affecting your life right now. The shadow of the Latchkey Kid is the belief that needs are dangerous. You learned that having needs, needing comfort, needing help, needing attention, was a liability. If you needed something and no one was there, you felt pain. So, the brilliant strategy of your child mind was to simply stop needing things, or at least to stop showing that you needed them. You became the low-maintenance friend, the employee who never complains, the partner who says, "I'm fine," even when you aren't. You adopted the persona of whatever. Whatever is the most misunderstood word in the GenX vocabulary. To the outside world, it sounds like laziness. It sounds like you don't care. But psychologically, whatever is a shield. It is a form of Stoicism. It means, I cannot control this chaotic world. I cannot control these crazy people, so I will withdraw my emotional investment. I will not let this hurt me. Whatever is a boundary. Now, fast forward to today. You are in your 40s or 50s. The world has changed completely. The analog world you were built for is gone, replaced by a digital world of constant screaming noise. And this is where the reversal of perspective happens. This is where we flip the script. For years, you may have felt that your inability to play the game of the modern world was a weakness. You look at LinkedIn, where everyone is writing glowing paragraphs about their humble journeys. You look at Instagram, where everyone is performing their happiness, and you feel a kind of nausea. You can't do it. You try, but it feels fake. It feels dangerous. You might judge yourself for this. You might think, why can't I just get with the program? Why am I so closed off? But here is the truth. Your detachment is not a defect. It is an evolutionary adaptation that is perfectly suited for this exact moment in history. We are living in an age of hyper-hysteria. The collective nervous system of society is fried. People are reacting to headlines, tweets, and rumors with 100% of their emotional capacity instantly. There is no gap between the stimulus and the response. But you have the gap. Because you spent all those hours alone in the quiet, you have a natural delay built into your system. When the crisis email goes out at work, you don't panic. You read it, you pause, you take a sip of coffee, you think, is this real, or is this just noise? You are the skeptical eye in a world of blind believers. This skepticism is often called cynicism by others. But true cynicism is bitter. What you have is not bitterness, it is discernment. You are the person who checks the fire extinguisher before the fire starts. You are the one who knows that just because everyone is yelling, it doesn't mean you have to run. Think about a practical situation. Imagine a family gathering. There is political tension. Voices are raised. The younger generation is demanding that everyone use the correct terminology. The older generation is getting defensive and angry. The energy in the room is spiking. A person without your training gets sucked in. They pick a side. They start yelling. But you likely sit back. You might make a small sarcastic joke to break the tension. You might just go to the kitchen and start washing dishes. You detach. You are acting as the gray rock. In psychology, the gray rock method is a way of dealing with narcissists or high-conflict people by becoming uninteresting, unresponsive, and solid. You don't feed the drama. You are the gray rock for the entire culture. You absorb the anxiety of the room, and you neutralize it. You don't amplify it. You ground it. This is a form of power that is rarely celebrated, but it is essential. You are the keel of the ship. The keel is heavy. It is underwater. No one sees it. But without the keel, the ship capsizes the moment the wind blows. However, there is a danger here, a trap you must avoid. The trap is getting stuck in the silent resentment. Because you are so good at enduring, so good at surviving without help, you often end up doing everything alone. And eventually, you get tired. you get bone-tired. This is the exhaustion of the midlife Gen X mind. You are carrying the aging parents, the growing children, the demanding bosses and the mortgage, and you are doing it with a stoic face. But inside, you are screaming. Inside, you are thinking, why doesn't anyone help me? Why do I have to be the strong one? This brings us to the inner shift. This is the psychological work you need to do now, to move from surviving to thriving. The shift is this. You must move from being the forgotten child to becoming the conscious sage. The forgotten child waits for someone to notice them. The forgotten child is secretly hoping that if they work hard enough and endure enough pain, someone will finally say, "Good job. Here is your reward." The conscious sage knows that the reward is never coming from the outside. The sage knows that they do not need permission to rest, and they do not need permission to speak. You have to stop waiting for the world to understand you. The world is too loud to understand you. You have to understand yourself. This starts with a subtle behavioral adjustment in your daily life. It is the practice of dropping the rope. Imagine you are in a tug of war. On the other end of the rope is the need for validation, or the need to fix everyone else's problems. You have been pulling on this rope your whole life. You think that if you let go, you will fall. But the shift is to realize that you can just drop it. When your boss creates a fake emergency, you don't have to fix it instantly. You can say, "I will look at that tomorrow." And then, and this is the hard part, you have to sit with the anxiety that comes up when you don't immediately please someone. You have to tolerate the feeling of being disappointing to people who simply want to use your energy. This is where your childhood training comes back to save you. Remember the latchkey? Remember the empty house? You survived that. You can survive being misunderstood. Let's look at this in a very practical way. Let's talk about the pause. In a world that demands instant replies to texts and emails, your greatest act of rebellion and your greatest act of mental health is to delay. When someone sends you a frantic text, do not answer for 20 minutes. When someone demands an opinion on a complex topic, say, "I'm still thinking about that." This sounds simple, but it is a profound psychological stance. It signals to the world, "I own my time. I own my mind. You cannot summon me." By doing this, you teach people how to treat you. You teach them that you are not a vending machine for reactions. You are a human being with a depth of thought. Another practical shift involves how you view your invisibility. Instead of feeling sad that you are not the center of attention, start to view your position as the observer on the balcony. When you are in a meeting or a social gathering, visualize yourself standing on a balcony looking down at the dance floor. The people on the dance floor are bumping into each other, stepping on toes, getting sweaty and exhausted. You are watching. You can see the patterns. You can see who is dancing with whom. You have the strategic view. This is the power of the introvert, even if you are an extrovert. It is the power of the watcher. Use this insight. Instead of trying to shout your idea over the noise, wait for the silence. Wait until everyone has exhausted themselves. Then speak your truth once, quietly, simply. You will be amazed at how people lean in. In a noisy room, the whisper is louder than the scream. There is a concept in Jungian psychology called the midlife passage. It is the moment where we let go of the false self, the personality we built to please our parents and society, and we embrace the true self. For Gen X, your false self was the survivor, the one who didn't need anything, the one who was tough. Your true self is the wise steward, the one who cares, but who cares with boundaries, the one who has deep empathy, but who knows that you cannot save people from their own karma. You need to give yourself permission to be softer with yourself. The harsh voice in your head, the one that tells you to suck it up, to push through, to stop whining. That voice was a survival mechanism from 1985. You don't need it anymore. You are safe now. You are the adult. You own the house. You can take the key off your neck. You can embrace a concept called differentiation. This is the psychological ability to be close to others without being consumed by them. Many of the younger generation struggle with this. They feel they must merge with the group mind to be safe. They have hive mind. You have sovereign mind. You can love your children without becoming their best friend. You can respect your parents without being their servant. You can work for a company without selling them your soul. This ability to compartmentalize, which people told you was cold, is actually the definition of emotional health. It allows you to stay sane in an insane world. So how do we integrate this? It starts with the body. GenX bodies are tired. You have been running on adrenaline and cortisol for 40 years. You need to learn the art of active rest. This isn't just sleeping. It is staring out the window. It is driving with the radio off. It is walking in the woods. It is returning to that analog state of mind where inputs are low and processing is high. You need to reclaim your right to be unavailable. In a practical sense, this might look like leaving your phone in the other room after 8 p.m. It might look like declining an invitation not because you are busy, but because you just don't want to go, and not making up a lie about it, just saying, I'm going to pass on this one. That is the power of the adult. No excuses, no justifications, just a quiet no. And as you make these shifts, you will notice something changing in your relationships. People will stop treating you like a utility and start treating you like an authority. When you stop scrambling to please everyone, you gain gravitas. There is a hunger in the world right now for adults, real adults. Not people who just look old, but people who have emotional weight. People who are not easily triggered. People who have seen cycles come and go. The world needs you to be that adult. The younger generations are terrified. They are terrified of the climate, the economy, the future. They are looking for someone who isn't panicking. They are looking for someone who has sat in an empty house, in the dark, and knows that the sun will eventually come up. They are looking for you. But they won't find you if you are trying to act like them. They won't find you if you are trying to be a cool mom or a hip boss. They will only find you if you are authentically, quietly yourself. If you are grumpy, be grumpy. If you are skeptical, be skeptical. If you are tired, be tired. There is tremendous dignity in the truth. Let's go deeper into the sandwich dynamic, because this is where most of your stress lives. You are likely caring for aging boomer parents. This generation, your parents, defined themselves by their vigor, their careers, their dominance. Watching them fade is psychologically jarring for you. It reminds you of your own mortality. Simultaneously, you are launching children who seem to have a fragility you don't understand. You watch them crumble over things you would have shrugged off. Your role here is not to fix the parents' mortality or the children's fragility. Your role is to be the witness. For your parents, you witness their decline with compassion, but you do not let their fear run your life. You help them, but you do not become them. For your children, you witness their struggles, but you do not solve them. You remember the lesson of the latchkey. Competence comes from doing it yourself. If you solve every problem for your child, you rob them of the very strength you possess. The greatest gift you can give the next generation is a little bit of benign neglect. Step back. Let them fail. Let them be bored. Let them figure out how to make the toast. You are not abandoning them. You are initiating them. You are passing the torch of self-reliance. And as you move through this phase of life, you might feel a desire to simplify. This is the paring down. You care less about brand names. You care less about titles. You care less about being right. You care more about peace. You care more about time. This is the transition from the warrior archetype to the magician archetype. The warrior fights with a sword and shield. The magician changes the world by changing their perception of it. You realize that you don't have to fight every battle. You can just step aside and let the battle pass you by. This is the ultimate revenge of the slacker. The slacker was never lazy. The slacker was just preserving energy for the things that actually mattered. Now, you know what matters. Your health matters. Your few close friends matter. Your peace of mind matters. The rest is just noise. So, let's settle into the ending. Let's bring this all into a single quiet moment. You have spent a lifetime feeling like you were watching a movie that everyone else was starring in. You stood in the back of the theater. You saw the boom mic drop into the frame. You saw the actors miss their marks. You saw the artifice of it all. And because you saw the fake, you learned to crave the real. You are the keeper of the real. In a world of filters, AI, curated feeds, and performative outrage, you are the analog anchor. You are the vinyl record in a world of MP3s. You have texture, you have scratches, you have a warm, imperfect sound. You do not need to make a big announcement that you are changing. You do not need to post about your new journey. You just need to sit back in your chair. Take a deep breath. Feel the weight of your own body. Feel the silence in the room. Realize that the silence is not empty. It is full of you. You are the generation that knows how to be alone without being lonely. You are the generation that knows how to survive the crash. You are the generation that bridges the old world and the new. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You don't need to be flashy to be seen. The foundation of the house is never painted bright colors. It is never decorated. It sits in the dark, in the dirt, holding up the roof, holding up the walls, holding up the lives of everyone inside. It doesn't ask for thanks. It just holds. You are the foundation. You are the rock. And in the quiet of your own mind, that is a powerful place to be. Be the observer. Be the grey rock. Be the sage. The world spins fast, but you can stand still, and that is enough.